We'll go ahead and get started. Again, welcome to our August session. We did skip July, lots of people on vacation, lots of things going on. So we thought we would come back together this month and talk about what's new. Just a reminder, our office has moved. We are now located in the Bausch and Lomb Center on the A level, room A250. You can access us either through the main entrance of Bausch and Lomb and then take the elevator or stairs down to the A level, or we do have direct access to A level across from the Welcome Center, the information booth. There is a door that comes directly into A level and will lead directly to our office. So that is where we are now located in a beautiful new space over here. So the purpose for today's discussion, we're going to quickly touch on the hours for the start of fall semester when students can continue to work for 40 hours and then when they have to reduce to 20. The New York State Pay Transparency Law, which is a new law that is going to take effect next month, and how it impacts you as a hiring supervisor. In June, I shared that we were preparing to launch a new hire process. Unfortunately, that process is being delayed. We are working with a third-party provider on this, and we have had some hiccups in the process, and we won't be able to get that in place before the start of the semester. So we are delaying that until after the peak fall hiring, and hopefully we can have it in place sometime mid-semester. So with that said, we'll talk about what the current process is for hiring. I know we have a lot of new folks joining us this year at RIT or in the student employment arena. So just to cover your student employment representatives, my name is Rachel Nemeth. I am the Senior Associate Director for the Student Employment Office. I am responsible for overseeing the operations of the employment office, as well as processing all graduate assistant hires that come into the office. That includes everything except for the graduate research assistants. Those go through accounts payable. Amanda Henry is our assistant director, and we are so excited to share that she has returned from maternity leave. However, she is in a part-time capacity. So she is working 2 to 3 days a week right now during the transition. If you have questions, we still encourage you to reach out either to one of the other SEO representatives or send your inquiries to our main email, because she is in sporadically. And if you're looking for answers to questions that you need quickly, it may get delayed because she might not be working that day. Lilith Christopher is our senior student employment assistant. She is also the person within our office that handles international student employment inquiries, things regarding I-20s, extension of I-20s, expirations, and Social Security numbers. She manages making sure that we get those in a timely manner and get our records updated. Lakeisha Breedlove is a student employment assistant within our office. She works on processing the paperwork that comes through our office and is available for general employment questions and information. Alexander Roche is our staff assistant. He pretty much manages the front desk and works with our student employees. He is available for all general employment information. You can reach out to him directly, or he does also monitor the student employment email, studentemployment@rit.edu, and make sure that questions are sent out to the appropriate person, dispersed appropriately. So we are your team. We are a small team of just 5 plus 4 student employees. And Lily and Lakeisha are responsible for processing about 95% of the hires that come through our office. So we generally employ about 4,000 students a semester, and about 95% of that, Lily or Lakeisha manages, they have hands on that. So very busy. It keeps us going, but we are a small office and we do our best. So jumping right into our topics, fall semester hours. As we head into the fall semester, we know that 20 hours a week is the limit during academic periods. However, leading into the fall semester, we do allow students to work up to 40 hours through August 24th. The week of August 25th through August 31st, it's reduced to 25 hours. And then from September 1st on, 20 hours a week is the maximum. So those are, if you want to take a quick snapshot of that or whatnot to share with the rest of your team, these are the hours that we are allowing students to work leading into fall. New York State pay transparency. I'm not sure if anybody has heard of this yet, but this is new legislation that goes into effect on September 17th of this year. What this does is it empowers job seekers with information upfront and to address systemic pay inequity and discriminatory wage setting and hiring practices. In a nutshell, what it means is that any postings for jobs that are going to be performed in New York State must include a salary or salary range on the job posting. That range needs to show the minimum and the maximum annual salary or hourly rate. So any job that we post campus-wide, whether it's through Career Connect or any other means, beginning September 17th, that posting must have a minimum and maximum salary or hourly rate posted on the job posting. This includes any paper flyers that you post campus-wide. It includes any departmental postings. If you have your own department website that you like to put your job postings on for recruitment, any place that you post a job, it has to include the wage or the wage range. This wage or wage range cannot be listed as starts at and then a certain rate. There has to be a minimum and a maximum on that job posting. Any job that comes through RIT Career Connect, you can't enter that job without entering that information. So we are pretty much covered as a university if you're putting your jobs through Career Connect and recruiting in that means. Where this starts to become tricky is when departments use the paper flyers or job boards or any other means of recruiting students into your department other than Career Connect. So this goes into place on September 17th. That means that any postings from September 17th forward must have that information on it. Now, if you have already posted your jobs, if you've already posted your flyers today, they'll be okay. They won't come into question because you posted it before that cutoff point, that September 17th. But if you post anything after September 17th, we have to have that information listed on that job posting. And New York State is very serious about this. They have listed what the fines would be if a business is found in violation. They're subject to civil fines. $1,000 for the first violation, $2,000 for the second violation, and $3,000 for the third violation. So we could face fines from New York State if we, don't have this in place or don't move forward. And this information was all pulled off the Department of Labor website, and Paychex actually did a great breakdown and kind of explanation of how this law impacts businesses and what businesses need to do. So I provided those links there if you wanted to look further at them. But that's where I pulled the information from to share with you today. So remember, that date is September 17th. If you're going to post within your department or you're going to post any other means aside from Career Connect, we have to make sure that you include that information. If you're posting through Career Connect, that information is a required field, so you wouldn't even be able to put that job description in without including that information. The new hire process, as I stated at the beginning, we are very disappointed to say that we've had to delay the start of this. We are very excited about what is to come, and we're hoping by the September session, we will really be able to do a walkthrough with everyone, show everyone what it looks like, what the expectations are. But unfortunately, we are just kind of in a bit of a situation where we're not prepared to launch. So with that said, we will be moving forward this fall using the existing hire process. Now, I know for a lot of you, this is information you may not know yet because you're newer to the university. Essentially, all hire forms and change forms have to be sent to SEO submit forms at rit.edu. Every job that we hire on campus has to have a valid job description on file with a wage or a wage range in RIT Career Connect, and Career Connect will issue a number for that job. You have to include that Career Connect number on your job, on your hire form. Just a note, as we are talking about current processes versus new processes, because we are moving to an electronic hire process, the Career Connect number is a required piece in that electronic process, and the system will not let you proceed if you don't have a Career Connect number. So if you have jobs or you have old handshake numbers that you're still, sneaking in, we need to make sure we get that Career Connect number updated and you have that ready to go. Hire forms must be sent prior to the end of the pay period. So if the pay period ends on Thursday, we really need you to get that hire form to us prior to that. You should have it in before the end of the pay period so that that student appears on your Kronos list and you can enter hours and sign off on them. Students may not begin working until they have been verified by SEO as being eligible to work. Now, as a note, we are no longer using student employment cards, or SEO cards as they are often referred to. We have eliminated that, and we are using an email to the student that indicates whether or not they are eligible to work. So this email process has been in place for our existing students who are returning student employees. But now when a new student completes their I-9, we are also sending them the same exact email that says they are now eligible to work in this semester. So you will no longer see SEO cards. You will no longer ask for SEO cards. You will ask to see their eligibility email. Every student will get that. As a reminder, new students who've never worked for RIT before absolutely may not begin working until they've completed part 2 of the I-9. So they need to complete the entire process. Part 1 is done online. Part 2 is done in person in our office. Once they complete part 2, we will immediately email that student before they even leave our office with their eligibility email saying that they've completed part 2, they're eligible to start working. We recognize that the federal regulation states that employees can complete part 2 of the I-9 within the first 3 days of employment. I'm just going to wait for our interpreters to catch up.
Can you see the second interpreter?
Is the second interpreter?
She is interpreter Elisa.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, I didn't see her come up on my screen. Perfect. Okay. So as I said, we recognize that federal regulations say that employees must complete part 2 within the first 3 days of employment. However, at RIT, we require that part 2 must be done before they start working. The reason for that is that often students will come to campus and they don't have the documents that they need to complete part 2 of the I-9. They've either left them at home or they don't have them or their parents won't send them with them. So if we allow a student to start working and then realize that it's day 3 and they don't have part 2 done because they don't have their passport here in Rochester, it's in California or it's in Ohio, we are now out of compliance. So if we restrict students from starting to work until the I-9 is complete, if they realize they don't have the documents, they can have them sent to them, and then they'll be able to come in and complete part 2 and start working. So again, we recognize that the law states one thing, but we are going above and beyond that and indicating that students have to have that part 2 done before they can start working. So as I said, part 1 of the I-9 is completed online. We do realize that the website has been removed from our website. So the link to do part 1 has been removed from our website. That was in preparation to begin the new hire process because the I-9 will change slightly. However, the link is still what students should be using to complete part 1. It's www.rit.edu/I9. You can provide that to your students when you make them an offer of employment. The students will get that link in their reminder email from Career Connect when they schedule an appointment. So if they go on Career Connect, schedule an appointment, 24 hours before their scheduled appointment, they will get a reminder that says, we'll see you tomorrow at such and such a time. Before you get here, please be sure part 1 is done at this website and you bring your appropriate documents, which you can see at this website. So they will get it in their email 24 hours prior to their appointment, but you can provide them that website, encourage them to get part 1 done as soon as possible. We do ask that you please do not tell your students to contact us for next steps. We're sharing the next steps with you so that you can immediately give them the next steps. That is, complete part 1 online and schedule their appointment to do part 2. Not that we don't want to talk to our students, but we don't want to delay the process. If you encourage your students to, hey, contact SEO and find out what you need to do next, they're going to email our general email address. We are currently taking in right now 250 to 300 emails a day in our department email, and that is going to jump substantially starting next week. And these emails are coming from parents asking questions, you guys as supervisors asking questions, students who are new to RIT or they're not sure what's going on and they're asking questions. What we don't want to do is have your student get bogged down in that email where we have 200, 300, 400 unanswered emails because we're working through them. And then they don't get the information until, later in the day or the next morning. You can get them that information immediately and get them moving on the process. The other thing that we ask is please do not send your students over to our office to do the I-9. Make sure that they're scheduling an appointment. We are scheduling at least 60 appointments a day, some days much more than that. And we will be available at the resource fair on both Sunday and Monday to do appointments as walk-ups if students have their documents and are here locally and want to get that done. But we don't have the space in our new office to accept walk-ins on top of the appointments. So please encourage your students to get that appointment scheduled. They can call us in the morning and ask if we have any availability same day or any appointments that canceled. In our experience, we do have probably about a 10% cancellation rate each day. Students who email us and realize, hey, I don't have my documents, or I can't come in, or I scheduled that during class and I didn't mean to. So encourage your students to, go online, make an appointment, but also, if they really want to get started quickly, to give us a call in the morning and see if we have any same day availability open. I can't guarantee we will, but I can't guarantee that we won't. So if we have 2 or 3 or 4 appointments, on a day that are open, we want to get those filled. We want to get your students working. We don't want to have open appointments when we can get students I-9'd. And just a note, we cannot legally perform part 2 completions through Zoom or any other virtual manner. We are legally required to inspect, review the documents that students present to us for validity. So we cannot perform any type of part 2 completion through Zoom. So when completing part 2 of the I-9, students must provide to us their original physical unexpired documents. We cannot legally accept any photos, copies, scans, or any other variation. Again, we are legally required to physically inspect and view the documents the students present to us. Once the student can prove to you that their I-9 is complete, and they would use that email that we send them that says, you are eligible to work during such and such a semester, then you can allow the student to start working and you can submit the hire form to us as soon as possible. We ask that you allow during this peak processing time 3 business days for processing. We are working through very, very large batches, a lot of volume. So please allow us 3 business days for processing, and check your Chronos list periodically for the student to appear. That's how you're going to know that they're there, they're in, and you can start entering their hours. If your student has not appeared and you have sent us your hire form, if they have not appeared by the Wednesday prior to end of pay period, so Wednesday, not Thursday, please email us at studentemployment@rit.edu with the student's name, their UID, the department number that you've hired them under, and the date that you submitted the hire paperwork so that we can do a search and figure out what's going on. We need all of that information though, so that we can identify the correct hire form, because a lot of students are hired under multiple jobs, and we want to make sure that we're looking at your hire form and not a hire form for another department. And then we can, troubleshoot and figure out what's going on. Please do not wait until Thursday to contact us. Please be checking your Chronos frequently, and please reach out Wednesday prior to end of pay period, because depending on what type of volume we have within our office, it may be too late to get to student process if you wait until Thursday, particularly if you wait until Thursday afternoon. There is a very slim chance that we can get to it if you wait that long. And as a reminder that once the pay period ends, meaning at the end of business on Thursday, we cannot access the system to process anything more. Once payroll starts their process, which is sign off Friday, we are restricted from entering Oracle and entering any new hires. We have to wait until payroll reaches out to us and says, payroll is complete, the processing is complete, you can now resume your hires. So if you contact us on Friday morning and say, hey, my student's not in Chronos, they started last Tuesday, there's not going to be anything we can do at that point. We are going to have to wait until payroll finishes and then go back and troubleshoot. So again, timely, make sure you're checking frequently, and please reach out to us Wednesday prior to end of pay period so that we have the time to be able to troubleshoot, figure out what's going on, and get that hire processed. Couple things to know about the hire forms. Object codes are very important. Object codes are how we know what type of student you're hiring, whether it is a regular student employee, federal work study student employee, those are kind of one and the same. Whether it is a community service employee, and those of you who have community service jobs know what I'm talking about, or whether it's a co-op. It's important to utilize the correct object code. So if you're hiring a regular student employee, just hiring a student to do a job, you would use 71250 or 71350 as the object code. And you would mark the type of hire up at the top, and then put the object code down in the third space on the account number. That should match. What you mark up at the top should match what you have entered into the account number. Just a note that for regular student employees, we do hire every student on both lines, 72150 and 71350, because that student may or may not have a federal work study award. That is information that we are not privy to. That is information that you are not privy to, and that is information that is not important to you, because whether or not a student has a federal work study award has no impact on your budget or their employment. It's just on our end, we have to hire on both lines just in case that student has an award that they accepted. Co-op students, it is very important that you use the appropriate co-op object code, because co-op students are entitled to some different benefits that regular student employees are not entitled to, such as holiday pay. They are paid on holidays, even if they don't work. They are paid holiday pay just like a regular faculty or staff member. And the amount of holiday pay that they are paid is dependent on how many hours per week you hire them. So it's important that you let us know how many, is it a 40-hour-a-week co-op? Is it a 35? What you put on that hire form determines how many holiday hours they get on a holiday. And as a reminder, the account number has to be complete. We can't process a hire form that is missing anything within the account number. It has to be complete. Same information for graduate assistants. The object code that the type of student that you mark at the top for job classification, that object code has to match what you put into the account number. We have 1, 2, 3, 5 different types of graduate assistants, depending on what you're hiring. One of those is a salary paid. That's the graduate teaching assistant, paid as by salary. All of the rest are paid hourly. When you are paying a graduate teaching assistant by salary, we do need to know how many hours per week that student is going to work. Is it a full 100% effort reporting, which would be 20 hours a week? Is it less than that? Is it 10 hours a week? And then you will prorate the biweekly amount appropriately based on how many hours per week, or whether it is a full-time or half-time. Just a reminder that every graduate teaching assistant has to go through the GTA Foundations training class, which is managed by the graduate school. The student will get the information directly from the graduate school regarding completing that class, but it is a required training class that GTAs must complete. If they don't complete it, they will not be allowed to be hired as a GTA again in the spring. So if you have a student that does not complete it and you've hired them for the full academic year, the graduate school will reach out to you and let you know, hey, your student didn't complete this. We're going to have to, remove them from your department. They can't continue as a GTA. Couple other notes. Sunday pay, which is 1.5 times the hourly rate for student hours, is only offered to co-ops. Regular student employees do not get Sunday pay for time worked on Sundays. C-shift differential, students are paid an additional 75 cents an hour for any hours that they report between 12 a.m. and 8 a.m. So it's important to know this, because we know students don't generally operate on a regular Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 schedule. They may complete work at all hours of the day or night. But you need to be aware that if they are completing work and reporting hours from 2 a.m. to 3:30 a.m., they will be getting this additional 75 cents an hour, and Kronos will automatically calculate that. If this is something that your budget cannot handle, then you need to set the ground rules when you're hiring the student, that employment, that the job needs to be done during certain hours of the day, and that you do not authorize them to complete work between the hours of 12 a.m. and 8 a.m. For a lot of jobs, it actually is really important that students are doing the work when there may be somebody that a resource available to them, whether it's a supervisor or, another manager, that there's somebody available for them to reach out if they have questions. So if they're working at 2 a.m., I'm pretty sure you're not available to answer any questions if they run into a snag or something. But again, that is at department discretion. If you don't have the budget to do it, then you can set the ground rules and tell your students, hey, work cannot be completed during, this hour and this hour. And holiday pay. Our co-op students are eligible for holiday pay. They will receive, however many hours of holiday pay for that holiday. They don't have to work. Regular student employees will only receive holiday pay if they report hours on that holiday. If they don't work, if your department is not open, then they do not receive any pay for that day. If you have a holiday coming up, let your students know ahead of time, hey, for example, Labor Day is coming up in a couple weeks. Let your students know our office is closed on Labor Day. You will not need to report that day. We'll see you at your next shift. But they do not receive any pay for it unless they're a co-op, and then they receive holiday pay. So it was a lot of information. We're hoping that at our next session, we will be able to cover the new hire process, give you a real good, walk through step by step, and provide some guide sheets for you. That's our goal. We're going to hope that that happens. But in the meantime, I am going to start jumping into some of the Q&A. If you have questions that I haven't answered through the session, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A function, and I will go through, read through them, and answer them. So great question regarding the New York State pay transparency. Question is, can the job listing have the pay as, you know, XXX, meaning this is the pay, it's $16 an hour, and not have the minimum and maximum? The answer to that is yes, as long as you are absolutely certain that you are going to pay that rate. You are not hiring at a different rate, and there's no, no possibility that a student would be hired at anything other. So if you hire all of your students at minimum wage, then yes, you can put that $14.20 in there. But if there is a possibility that you may hire at any other rate, then the minimum and maximum would be appropriate. Okay, this is a good question. It says, what if our hiring and pay structure hires a trainee position and always starts at the same rate, but promotes up to a non-trainee, then senior, et cetera, role that includes higher pay? Do we need to post our entire structural pay range? So you need to post the rate for, this is a good question, is kind of a tricky one. If these are different job descriptions, meaning the trainee position has one job description, the regular job has a different description, and the senior role has a different description, then you would post the rate for each of those roles on those job descriptions. Chances are you always hire at a trainee. You're not going to hire somebody in as a senior because they haven't gone through the trainee and then the non-trainee roles. So you're always going to hire that trainee. You're going to post that position at that trainee rate. If you post that job to recruit, then you would have to post the higher rate. But if you are moving this student from a trainee to a non-trainee and providing them an increase when they become a non-trainee, but you're not posting it, you're not recruiting for it, then that doesn't need to be, the rate doesn't need to be listed. We can talk through this a little further offline because it's more common than you think. If that doesn't quite answer your question, but you would post what you're hiring that student at right then and there. And then if they're moving up the ladder, you can provide those raises and post if you're posting for recruitment. The link for the I-9 is www.rit.edu/I9. It is no longer available on the SEO website. That's the question here. Is it on the website? We were preparing to move to our new hire process, which will eliminate that link. But because we've gotten delayed, we're kind of in a holding pattern right now. So it was removed from our website to prepare to launch, and then launching had to be pulled. So you can provide that link to your students. Again, rit.edu/I9, and they can complete part 1. If we have one pay rate for all of our students, except for promoted student supervisors, do we still have to add no, you do not need a pay range. If you are hiring all students in at one rate, you can post with that rate as long as that is the rate that you're hiring and there's no possibility of hiring higher. Can you please show the slide that says what dates and how many hours student workers can work? Yes, give me 1 second to get back to it. There you go. How do we know if it should be 71250 or 71350? It doesn't matter. You can use either one of those object codes. We will automatically hire it on both. So you can put 250 or 350 we know in our office as a business process, we have to hire on both. With all of the students who applied to our job post, is there a way to send a generic message from the portal, I'm assuming Career Connect, that the position has been closed and that they were not chosen? Unfortunately, Career Connect does not have that function where we can send a mass email out to all applicants. You can close the job and remove it, and it will come down from being posted, but unfortunately, it does not have the feature to be able to send out a mass email. What would be considered an offer letter or form? So offer letters are not required for student employees. However, they are a good process to have in place if you have the ability to do so. We do not have an offer letter template because it really should be geared towards your students, your job, and very particular to your department. If you want to provide offer letters to your students, we do encourage it and we support it. They are not required, but certainly recommended, especially for those higher level jobs or co-op jobs. A co-op job where you know that the student is working from this date until this date, it is a good practice to provide them an offer letter so that they know exactly when their job is starting, when their job is ending, and what their rate is going to be. We have had situations where co-ops have worked beyond their end date because they didn't know. They didn't know what their end date was supposed to be. So certainly a good practice to put in place. It is not a requirement. This is a great question. Can an incoming student fill out an I-9 even if they don't have an on-campus job yet? And the answer to that is no. Students have to have a job offer with a tentative start date in order to complete the I-9. And we have to enter that start date into the document. So when students are completing part 1 of their I-9, they will actually be asked, what is your first day of work going to be? We can't complete an I-9 if they don't have a job yet because they don't know when their first day of work is going to be or if they're even going to start working. So no, we cannot have students complete I-9s if they don't have a job yet. When you do offer your student a job, please be sure to be clear with them what their tentative start date is. Tentative start date would be best case scenario that they get their I-9 done and can show up to work. It's not set in stone. So if you say, hey, I want you to start on Friday, and the student comes to our office, they say, yep, my first day of work is going to be Friday. And then they say, oh, I don't have my documents to complete part 1 of the I-9 or part 2 of the I-9. That's not a set in stone date. That is the best case scenario when you're talking to your student to provide them that date. This question is, you said that everything on Career Connect is okay, so we don't have to update anything. We have had in place on Career Connect the requirement that you enter a wage or wage range since the inception of Career Connect at RIT. So we have had this covered since we brought Career Connect on board. So if you have job descriptions in there, they have a wage associated with them. What I would recommend though is going in periodically and updating them or updating that wage. We have noticed that there are some job descriptions in there that haven't been updated since we brought Career Connect on board, which was 3 years ago. And some of those jobs actually came over from Handshake. So it's probably even longer since they've been looked at and updated. So if you are using specific job descriptions, job numbers frequently, please go in, make sure that the job is accurate, make sure that the wage is updated to what you are currently hiring at, and just keep kind of review those maybe once a semester just to make sure that they're still valid and accurate. Will this recording be available for us to watch again? Absolutely. We record all of our sessions and we make them available on our YouTube channel. It generally takes a couple days for them to be available on the YouTube channel because YouTube has to finalize the closed captioning before we will allow it to go live. But we do record all of these and make them available on our YouTube channel. So you you can go back and watch any of the sessions that we've had this year with the exception of a select few, they are available out there now. This is an interesting question. It says, can students still work remotely for up to 30 hours? So that may have been a typo. The limit is 30 days. Students can work remotely for up to 30 calendar days. Then they need to cease working and return to Rochester. What that means is if you have a student start working remotely today on August 16th, 30 days from today, they have to cease remote work if they are outside of New York State or in New York City. So they can, the remote work policy is available on our website for review. Students can work remotely, but they can only do so for 30 calendar days. Do you have a document that lists the pay weeks? So there is one on our website for the current year, 2023, and I am patiently waiting for accounts payable to provide me, or payroll to provide me the link for 2024, the pay weeks for 2024. Rumor is there still is a link out there to the one payroll website that had the payroll schedule up on it. So if you can find that link, great. But we do have the 2023 pay weeks listed on our website. Okay, this is a great question. I had to read through it real quick to make sure I understood it. So it says, if our pay structure includes a system of incremental tenure-based raises after a certain number of semesters work, should that be included in the pay range? For context, job description does not change, but employees always start at the same rate. As long as you are always hiring your students at the same rate, then you don't need to include that full pay range. You have to include the hiring rate. So if you hire and you're going to determine the wage based on maybe experience or whatnot, then you would put a range in there. If you know you always hire students at this rate, there is no vying from that, it's always this rate, then you do not need to put a range. You just need to put that rate. The fact that you increase them later based on tenure or performance, that doesn't need to be in the job posting. The job posting is for your new students and what they are going to be hired at that time. Now, this other information you could discuss with them upon hire after you've hired them, but they need to know what they're coming in at. If we have a generic do not post job that we use to hire TAs that was already set up and doesn't include the wage, do we need to create a new DNP job or can we edit the existing job? So in Career Connect, there's no way that there's a job description in there that doesn't have a wage. So it's got a wage on it. You can go ahead and edit that one, but there's no way that it was entered into Career Connect without a wage. That's a required field and it will not allow you to skip over it. Does a student have to be registered for classes in order to secure a job? A student has to be registered full-time in a matriculated degree program in order to work on campus. That is one of the eligibility requirements. Whether that registration is in the form of classes, a full-time equivalency, or a variation combination of, they do need to be registered full-time in a matriculated degree program. If you hire for the same positions each semester and/or academic year, do you have to submit a new posting on Career Connect every time you are looking to refill that position? You can repost the same job description each time you're looking to recruit for that job. You don't need to create a whole new job. You can utilize the same job description. If that job is changing or needs to be updated, it's best to copy that job and then add the updates so that you have a record of what the old job was before the updates and then what the new job is with the updates. But you don't need to recreate the wheel each time you need to post. You can utilize existing job postings to recruit each semester. Does the 25 hours from 8:25 to 8:31 apply to co-op students as well? It does not. Co-op students are always eligible to work up to 40 hours if they're doing their co-op for RIT. They can work up to 40 hours. Do co-ops get overtime when they work over 40 hours a week or over 40 hours a day? It is 40 hours per week. They can work more than 8 hours. I'm sorry, I misread that. Do co-ops get OT when they work over 40 hours a week or over 8 hours a day? So the answer is still the same. They get the overtime after 40 hours in a week, not after 8 hours in a day. So they can, if the schedule is, 4 10-hour days, they can do that. There would not be overtime after 8 hours. It's after 40 hours in the week. Can you provide the link to your office's YouTube channel? Tomorrow, when you get a follow-up email that says, hey, thanks for joining us yesterday at our Q&A, the link to the YouTube channel will be in that follow-up email. So you will get it then, and then you can share it with your entire department. Great questions. I appreciate them. I've got one in the chat, it looks like. Oh, nope, it was Lily providing the payroll schedule for 2024. Thank you, Lily. She did find it. We still have about 10 minutes. Lots of time for any more Q&A. I'm here. I'm happy to answer questions about anything. It doesn't need to be what we discussed today. If you have any questions regarding employment on campus, we're happy to answer them. This question I actually just answered. It says, with all the students who applied to our job post, is there a way to send a generic message from Career Connect that the position has been closed? Unfortunately, Career Connect does not have that capability. You can close the job and remove it, and it will come down off the posting. Won't be viewable by students any longer, but unfortunately, it does not provide that ability. And just a note, we have, orientation week starting next week. We have resource fair on Sunday and Monday. We will have lots of incoming students looking for jobs, looking for employment this semester, students who have federal work study awards, students who just want to work. So we've got quite a few students coming in looking for jobs. If you are looking to hire, now is the time to get your postings up on Career Connect, because when we participate in Resource Fair this weekend, Sunday and Monday, we will be talking to students and showing them where to go to look for jobs, how to search jobs in Career Connect. So they will be in there. They will be actively looking at it starting on Sunday. We strongly recommend, if you need to recruit, that you start doing so now, and don't wait. If we are rehiring our students, should we submit a new hire rehire form or change form with a new end date? So that's kind of a loaded question. It depends. If your student has not been working for you, say the student is, stopped working for you a couple months ago and you want to rehire them, then you would need a hire form. We can't change an old end date. If the student has been working for you and you want to extend their end date, then we could use a change form. But if this student was working for you in the past and they are not currently working for you, you would need a hire form to rehire that student. Part 2, I have inherited some student employees and I don't have their original hire forms. I'm not sure of their end dates. I believe if you go into Oracle, and maybe I can have Lily help me answer this. There is a personnel report that can be run through Oracle that will provide employment information for all of the student employees. Lily, do you know this?
Yes, there is a link. But I think when I send it to you, it's just going to the panelists. So I can send it to you, but you'll have to send it to everybody in the chat.
Okay, and that's to the department personnel report in Oracle?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll
If
get
you can
that.
send that to me, I will try and get it shared in the chat.
Okay. And the other one too.
Yes.
Okay.
So a clarifying question, just to clarify, if there are no changes in the wage or job description, can we use the same job ID from Career Connect on the hire form to hire a new student for a position? Yes, if there are no changes, you can reuse job numbers on hires as long as the job that the student is doing, that job description reflects the job the student is doing. You don't have to create a new job description. You can reuse job IDs. Another clarifying question, the student needs to meet with us for the hire form, then they do I-9, and then they meet with you. So the student needs to meet with you for interview, job offer, etc. Then you can have them fill out the hire form at that time if you are hiring them and offering them a job, but you don't send us that hire form until after they've completed the I-9. So when they have their initial meeting with you, they go through the interview, you offer them the job, then they do the I-9. Then they do part 1 online and they schedule an appointment with us to do part 2. Once they show you the email that says they've completed and are eligible to start working, then you can send us their hire form. Okay, great questions. We still have a couple more minutes and I'm sorry if I missed this, but we are still using Career Connect in the new, absolutely, we are still using Career Connect in the new hire process. That is our job posting platform. It works, it provides us job numbers and an easy database to go and pull job descriptions from. So yes, Career Connect is not going away. If we have been signing off on a student employee who has been away for the summer, we will not have to complete another hire form, correct? Yes, if that student is still on your Kronos list and will be returning for the fall, you do not need to rehire that student. You do not need to send us another hire form. You just need to see their email that says that they have verified with us that they're eligible to work the fall semester, and then you can add them right back to your schedule. If we have been signing off on a student employee, oops, sorry, I just answered that one. My apologies. Active SEO cards with expiration dates in the future are still valid and acceptable. Is that correct? Actually, our SEO cards ended. We don't have SEO cards out there for the fall for this academic year. So you shouldn't see anything that's beyond 22 or 23. Summer of 23 is pretty much the end of when we used SEO cards. So you shouldn't see any for the fall, and certainly none for the spring because we don't have any in-house for the 23-24 academic year. Are student employees allowed to work remotely from Rochester? So when it comes to student employees, we don't consider remote work. When it comes to student employees, we only consider work remote if it's outside of New York State or in New York City. A student who is working within Rochester in their dorm room is not considered remote for the purpose of student employees. Now that is different from faculty and staff. We all know that if we work from our kitchen table, that is remote work. But for the case of students, we only consider them remote if they are outside of New York State or in New York City. The question says, is the object code in the account number new? No, the object code is the third set of numbers that you send on your hire form. The reason we covered it is we are seeing a lot of variation from what supervisors are marking at the top versus what they are putting in their job description or in their account number. So we see the most frequent mistakes that we see are supervisors marking a co-op, but then using a regular student worker object code in the account number. And then because they don't match, we have to take the time to follow up. The other mistakes we see are on the graduate forms when a supervisor will mark graduate assistant, which is one object code, but then put the object code for a graduate teaching assistant in the account number. So not new, we're just covering it to clarify. Sorry if I missed this. Do we need to log into Career Connect and update archive job postings with the pay rate? So anything that's already in Career Connect has a pay rate on it, whether it's the current minimum wage or the past minimum wage. If it's in there, it's got a wage on it. They can't go into Career Connect without a wage. You just need to ensure that anything that's going out live has the wage on it that you intend to hire. And it's really more for any job postings that are outside of Career Connect, meaning, you know, job boards, flyers, you have to make sure that those wages are on there. But Career Connect requires you to put a wage on the job no matter what. Where can the eligibility form be found for student employees to fill out? So if students go to our website, rit.edu/student employment, and they click on the student side of the website, it's about halfway down the page. Submit it for eligibility. It just asks for their name, their UID, and that's it. And then it comes to our, their name, their UID, and their email address. And then it comes to directly to our inbox. Can we email the student offering a job, basic generic email that they could show you? That's great. If you can email a student, you know, if you provide them an email that says, hey, welcome to the team, your tentative first day of work is going to be such and such a date, then they have that to show us. That's great. We actually have a form on our website that you can also use. Fill it out with the student's name, their UID, and their tentative first day of work, and then they can come to us and show us that, hey, yes, I have a job offer and this is my tentative first day of work. Absolutely. We often find students that come into our office and they have no idea when they're supposed to start work. They can't really say whether or not they've been offered a job. All they say is, well, I talked to somebody and it sounded like they wanted me to start working for them. So whatever you can do to really hammer down, yes, this is a job offer. This is your tentative first day of work. These are your next steps. Sorry if this was asked already. Does a student need to complete a new I-9 year over year? No. The I-9 only needs to be completed once when the student first starts working for RIT. If there is no gap in employment, then that I-9 is valid all the way through their employment at RIT. If they stop working for RIT for 1 year or longer, then they will need to do a new I-9. There can't be a gap of more than a year in their employment for RIT. Bridget Moss Phillips, if you could reach out to Alex, ALRSEO at rit.edu, he will get you Career Connect access. Where are the open student positions found? Well, all student positions are listed on Career Connect. So if you have open student positions in your department, you would post them on RIT Career Connect for recruiting. If you don't have an account for Career Connect or you don't have access to your department, you can reach out to Alex, ALRSEO at rit.edu, and he can work on getting you set up with an account. So we have reached 2:30. We had some great questions here. I really, really appreciate the engagement. I really appreciate all of the great questions. You know, I'm sure that there are lots of people that you ask questions that they didn't realize they actually even had. So thank you so much for helping keep these sessions moving forward. I do want to be cognizant of time, so we are going to go ahead and end this, and we will see you next month on September, what did I say, September 16th, I think. And hopefully September 13th, hopefully on that day, we'll be able to go through the new hire process. Again, thank you for joining us. Have a great start to your semester. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We will help guide you through the process. I know a lot of it is brand new to a lot of you, so we'll work together to make sure that we get through it unscathed. So thank you everybody for joining us. Have a great day and have a great start to your semester.